Okay, it is Back to the Future, episode number 31. And once again, I have cajoled Warren Sklar to, if I can, it's such a small little thing over here. Let's see if I can get this going here. I have gotten Warren Sklar to come back on again. There he is. I've got him on screen. Hey.
I'm here. Hey, hello. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing? How are you doing?
I'm good. I had a good day. I went to a museum and trying some electricity for my house that didn't work out, which I could talk about later, and fixing a drone right now. That's about it. Oh, and my son gave me a heart attack today. I could tell you about that later.
Oh, yeah. I think I read about that on the site.
Yeah, I got an email from him forwarded saying that we're on lockdown, but he thought it was funny just to send that, not telling me that it was a drill. And then I had to call the school, of course, to say what's going on. And they're like, "What are you talking about?" "Oh, you mean the drill?" I'm like,
"Yeah, thanks. Thanks, son. Appreciate it."
I'm going to kill somebody.
All right. This week, I didn't really get a chance to pull anything from the site. So if there's something that you guys that are watching us live want to talk about, let us know in the comments and we'll go over that. The main thing I wanted to talk about tonight was a little phenomenon that's currently going on as far as security goes. And it goes by the nom de plume known as KRACK, and it's short for Key Reinstallation Attack. In essence, it's an exploitable flaw in Wi-Fi protocols, including WPA2, that secures Wi-Fi connections. Nearly any unpatched router, regardless of platform, is vulnerable. So even if properly implemented, macOS, Windows, Linux, iOS, and Android devices could have their traffic exposed. This was discovered last year by a Belgian research group who published details in their findings this month. And it's the latest security flaw to get a lot of people freaking out. And as it turns out, the freak out is most likely justified under certain conditions. Now, what have you heard about this, Warren?
Pretty much what you said. It's always good to hear that it's took researchers years to figure this out, and it's not something that's widespread, such as not the crypto locker, but the one that came out and that was out in China last year.
Oh, it was Bit something, wasn't it?
Yeah, was it the BitLocker or whatever? Maybe it was Bit something, but
it didn't really affect us.
Didn't affect Mac so much, but it affected a bunch of PCs out there. But again, with these Mac type of vulnerabilities, like I say in the Facebook group, is 99.9% when the big article of clickbait comes out, it's basically saying researchers discovered a flaw. That's a good thing. I think that's when you don't panic. That's when somebody figures out that there could be some kind of flaw, and they fix it. And within days, every provider, every manufacturer fixed it. And from what I read about it, is you had to be on a local network. You had to be next. If you're, I would have to drive to your house, stand outside your house with some kind of unlocking program to possibly get access into your network. And after all that, I wouldn't know what to do when I was there anyways, but it didn't concern me so much. So
no, not so. But if you're like living in an apartment building where you're relatively close quarters with some of the other people that also live in your same building or whatever, then there's certainly opportunities there for someone to do something nefarious like this. But I think we have to be careful because um, most of the time, if you're running the Mac OS or Linux, you don't really have to worry too much about it because a lot of this stuff isn't really geared toward that.
It's
But in
operation.
this case, it's not
Yeah.
so much the hardware that's the issue or even really the basic software, but it's the Wi Fi standard itself that's the problem.
Right.
Uh, what's kept us safe using Wi Fi in the past was the encryption scheme that runs on both the transmit receive ends of the signal, which prevents anyone without the proper key to decrypt the information going back and forth. And with KRACK, the attacker can place their own decryption key in the middle, kind of like a man in the middle attack, and read all the traffic going back and forth. And this is something I found on Wikipedia that was talking about this. It probably has said a lot better than I could. Basically, the attack targets the four-way handshake used to establish something called a nonce, Nonce, a kind of shared secret in the WPA2 protocol. The standard for WPA2 anticipates occasional Wi Fi disconnections and allows reconnection using the same value for the third handshake for quick reconnection and continuity. Because the standard does not require a different key to be used in this type of reconnection, which could be needed at any time, a replay attack is possible. An attacker can repeatedly resend the third handshake of another device's communication to manipulate or reset the WPA2 encryption key. Each reset causes data to be encrypted using the same values, so blocks with the same content can be seen and matched, working backwards to identify parts of the keychain which were used to encrypt that block of data. Repeated resets gradually expose more of the keychain until the entire whole key is known, and the attacker can then read the target's entire traffic on that connection. And I mean, basically, what this is saying, this is a man in the middle attack, and they're kind of working their way through the key. So the more information that you're sending, the easier it is for them to decrypt it. Now, I haven't been able to read anything that laid out how long it takes for the key to be decrypted, and I don't know how much that depends on how many other people are also on the same network at the same time. But it sounds like it doesn't take all that long. So basically, what needs to be done, routers need to be updated, as will operating systems. I think the Mac OS and iOS have already been updated.
Yeah.
In the meantime, be cautious using public Wi-Fi, and don't do anything on public Wi-Fi that you might consider sensitive.
So they said beta, from what I read, iOS and Mac OS beta, the last betas were patched. It's probably, again, you're probably going to use the same rules as public Wi-Fi at this point, where, just be careful, doing backing and things like that on batch machines. But in reality, that's the only real danger out there you're probably going to have is, worrying about your banking details going back and forth somewhere. And again, somebody has to be close to you. They have to be on your network, and they have to be probably sitting there sniffing your network long enough for them to find anything important. But yeah, I think routers are starting to get patched. I've seen those happen. I'm sure the airport will get a patch real soon. If it hasn't yet, I can tell you that much, but I'm sure it will. And it will be fixed. Doesn't worry me. Yeah.
Well, honestly, if you're going into a coffee shop and you're doing banking or anything that could be considered of a sensitive nature, why are you doing that?
Well, I mean, people have that. People have a Wells Fargo app on their phone, or they have a Bank of America phone app, and they're looking at their accounts, I'm sure, on their phone. because people do, and
Well, but can unless you're actively transmitting something, I don't think that this attack can go and look at information that's on your phone. It's mostly just
no,
looking
no,
at what you're transmitting or what you're receiving.
right.
So
So
if
if
you're
you're
not actually doing banking and if you're just going onto Facebook and silly crap like that, they might get your Facebook password, which
if, if I'm on my phone, if I log into Wells Fargo on a Starbucks Wi-Fi, for instance,
mm-hmm.
which is probably, I mean, I'm checking my balance on my Wells Fargo app. I feel pretty, you know, I've done it before. I'm sure other people have. I'm not doing, when you say do banking, I'm not sitting there balancing my checkbook. I might be opening, I'm opening up an app to say, hey, do I have enough money to buy this coffee or whatever it is in my bank account? Those apps are pretty secure. I think too. I think most of that, if I, you gotta also think are you transmitting data at that point, or are you kind of on their back end looking at the data at that point? You're transmitting, it's not like I'm emailing plain text my bank account numbers, with these apps.
No, I mean there's encryption going on between the app on your phone or your computer and the bank.
Yeah.
Um, but if they're just doing like a data dump, couldn't they kind of get that information and then go to try to do something with it later? I mean,
Yeah.
they've already gotten step one done. They've encrypted the traffic between your computer and whatever the host is that you're using to get onto the internet.
I could tell you with certainty that people have been doing banking in public Wi-Fi's. It's within the past years. I mean,
Sure.
I'm sure they have. Have we heard anything about everything that we hear about as far as these banking issues have to do with a major hack getting into the database of the bank, and it's not through like some rogue, Joe Smith at Starbucks, let them in
Well,
or got
I don't
into an
think we
account.
really know that. The ones that get all the press is the big hacks of like Equifax and Target and some of these other companies that have gotten hit. But when you're just Mr. Joe Blow that lives in Idaho, and you use the same password that you use for your Gmail account, that you do for your bank, that you do for, God help us, AOL, or 10,000 other accounts, and something else gets hacked, and the very first thing they do is they use that email address that they have and the password that they've got for site X and apply it to every other site that they can, because they know that a lot of people are stupid enough to use the same password over and over and over again.
But that's a different way in. I mean,
well, it is,
but there's a way in of getting your password, from a data breach from AOL, and now I have Guy Searle's AOL account name and password, and I can try it on different sites. Than
right.
Me hanging out at Starbucks waiting for Guy Searle to log into AOL and intercepting his AOL password. The worst, I mean, what I've seen with public hotspots mostly, for some reason, are email spoofs happening there. Somehow, what they mostly encrypt is your email address, and they spam out your email from those hotspots, and I think they get access to your contacts that way too. I mean, have they gotten your account information, like your login information from like a public hotspot? Maybe, but I don't hear about that much.
Well, you won't, because it's one-offs, and generally, yeah, it's not the same kind of scale as someone getting your banking information by using like KRACK or what have you to sniff traffic and all the rest of that. It's a simple thing where they find out that your password for Yahoo is XYZ, so that they use that same email and password XYZ for everything they can think of. A blind, throw as much crap on the wall as you can to see what sticks. But it still comes down to, this kind of attack that is exposing putting into plain text the information that you're sending from your computer to someplace on the internet could lead to identity theft.
Yeah. And again, that's why it's very similar to a public Wi-Fi hotspot. And I think probably the normal person is not going to be, well, average. The average human, I could see, this could be a problem for businesses that use WPA2, and there might be people who are trying to steal data that way. But, again, I don't think we need to panic as individuals that are people are trying to hack into our WPA2 network to get my Facebook password or my AOL password or things like that. By the time somebody feels like they might want to do that, I'm thinking I'll probably be patched up by then anyways.
Okay. All right. Some of the stuff we got over here in the chat room.
Yep.
Ooh, it's starting to disappear. Brian likes my hat. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
He also says that KRACK has nothing to do with public Wi-Fi, as any public Wi-Fi would not be using WPA2. I don't agree with that. I think I
just made a I just want to clarify. I just made a comparison as the security between the KRACK, the hack KRACK, and using a open Wi-Fi. They're definitely not the same, and they definitely don't. I don't know what they use. They might use WPA2 there too, but some of them do. But no, I'm not saying they're the same. So go ahead. I'm just comparing the two.
Okay. He also says banking details would be encrypted by SSL, so no worries there. Maybe, maybe not. We already talked about a couple scenarios where if you're stupid enough to use the same password over and over and over again, then all it takes is for you to lose control of one account and you'll lose control of nearly everything. He also says if your phone is Android, there are lots of known exploits that can, once you get on the same Wi-Fi, allow attackers to get into it. Same with Windows. Okay, possibly. The important thing to keep in mind about this security issue is that the sky is not falling. Just get your patches and move on. No big deal in the end. It is not currently being, I think he means exploited in the wild now that we know of. Patches are coming. Patches have kind of already come out for some. If your equipment does not get patched, you get to decide if you want to keep it or replace it. Well, a lot of people, I think most people that are using ISP from their cable company or whatever, they're not going out and getting their own routers. They're using whatever router is given to them by the ISP, and in turn using the Wi-Fi that is also included in that router. So if you know how, and you have the details to go into your router through a web browser, it actually would be a very good idea to go ahead and log in and see if your router has been updated. But
I would think the ISPs are probably on. I would actually feel
they should be auto updating them.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking the ISPs, at least the major ones, are probably on alert, and they're probably that's probably going to be one of their high priorities at this point, is to patch their equipment on this. So I would feel I would actually feel more comfortable personally with an ISP router than a personal router at this point, because I think those routers are going to be on the list of patches quicker than some of the other home use ones.
Well,
I know we have more control about, we have some more control about doing it, but believe me, Verizon here in the U.S. provides business internet to a lot of people, and if their router hits news saying that they let somebody onto some corporate network, then that's going to make news for them. So they're going to want to make sure that doesn't happen very quickly.
And Jai Vaswani wants to know when Chase is going to get banned from Mac to the Future.
It might be right after this show. It's why wait around?
Okay. Speaking of things along this line in a way. The only other thing I have here, actually, let's save that for just a second. I'm going to run a quick ad here for Ed's book. If you guys haven't gotten Ed's book yet, it's only 99 cents, and you can find out more about it right here. Are you a new Mac user or an old hand? Wish you could know the ins and outs, keyboard shortcuts, or hidden tips and tricks to make you more efficient using your favorite computer? Hey, it's your lucky day, because Edward Eisen has written a great guide to knowing more about the Mac and the OS that it runs on. It's called This is the Light Side, and it's available through Apple's iBookstore or with Amazon. Better yet, it's not a stuffy old book that gathers dust on the shelf once the next operating system is released, because it's an ebook that you can look at anytime you want. It won't get outdated because it's continuously being updated. Information on setting up your new Mac, installing and getting rid of applications, security settings and what to look out for, keyboard shortcuts, some basic app recommendations, how to use Windows on your Mac, if you really want to, that is, advanced topics, searching, using iCloud, and much more. All this for a mere 99 cents. Go to the iBookstore or Amazon and check out Edward Eisen's This is the Light Side. It's the book you want on your virtual shelf. Okay, we are back, and yeah, Warren has something that looks suspiciously like the alien from the movie Alien.
I'm working on
you held it up like that, and it kind of made me think that it was like a face hugger. It was going to come up and just grab me. So, and then what was his name? John Hurd was his name.
The one that got the egg laid into his mouth.
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah, he was the one guy in Harry Potter too, Ollivander.
Speaking of that, don't see Blade Runner, the new one. It's terrible.
Oh, really? I heard lots of good things about it though.
Oh, we thought it was. I'd heard good things too, but it was terrible. So
okay, well, I know a lot of people gushed about the original one, and I saw it and wasn't that impressed.
I rewatched it before I watched this one. I'm like, really?
Well, all right. Hi, Jai is telling me that his name is pronounced Jay. So
it's Jay. Sorry about that. Sorry, Jay. Yes.
And he missed some of the beginning of the conversation, so he wants us to go over it again.
No, we're not doing that.
Really, all you got to do within probably half hour, 45 minutes after this is done, Jay, I will post the edited one that will have like all the prior stuff to us going live will be taken out, and I'll adjust the audio a little bit because we always get some audio drift. And and it'll also be over on Facebook if you want to watch it there. I'm actually kind of doing something a little bit different tonight. I upped the resolution from 1280 to 1920, and I thought
it looked a little better. To be honest.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of keeping an eye on the amount of CPU that we're using, because the higher up we go in CPU use, the more we start getting drop frames, and it's so far we're good. We have 0 drop frames. So OBS is the program that I use to do all these live casts. It's actually a really, really good program. I wish I could use the other one, just Broadcaster, but every time I try to use that, I still have some issues with it. And OBS, other than not letting me have, the one thing that just Broadcaster did that OBS doesn't is I'm able to put up, likes and hearts and the emotion little things that you can do on Facebook. And I can't do that with OBS, but
yeah, I just noticed that.
Yeah, but OBS is like solid. So it's a question of, do I want the other thing that just Broadcaster does that I really liked, I could have, a separate little comments box off to the side. So instead of going all the way over here to look at what comments have been made, I can see them right next to the window, and I can't do that with OBS. But everything is a compromise.
We don't need the likes window. We know we're liked. It's all good.
Let's see. Brian disagrees with you, Warren, about something.
Yeah, so I'm definitely not going to be a. He disagrees with. He feels more comfortable if he's able to manage his own router and patch his own router, and I did say that. I said, yeah, I do too, but on the same time, what I'm saying is if there's a Netgear router out there that I own that's been on the shelf for 3 years compared to Verizon's provided router, if I had to bet money which one's going to get the patch first, I'm going to guess the one that's in production on the Verizon network. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that yes, I feel comfortable. I would feel more comfortable knowing that I could personally go ahead and see that it's patched compared to waiting on Verizon to do it. I'm just saying that odds are that Verizon has it as a hot topic, or Spectrum, or whoever you guys use for internet at this point.
And Diana Rose says, isn't the flaw in encryption itself, not specific routers or devices? If it is a flaw with WPA2 encryption, then no amount of patching is going to fix anything. We need to do encryption standard. Sorry, I didn't read very much on this in the past few days. Well, Diana, the way I understand it is the encryption is fine. The problem is in the protocol, they kind of expect dropouts and reconnections, and every time there's a dropout or you have to reconnect, in best world scenarios, you would need a new encryption key at that point, but then that slows everything down. So WPA2, whoever made the standard, decided that it would be prudent to just go ahead and use that same key. So there's a sequence of events, and Warren, if I say anything wrong here, let me know. There's a sequence of events that happens that allows your computer to reconnect to that same session using the same encryption key. So it's not that the encryption is the problem, it's the protocol that allows the same key to be reused over and over again if there's a dropout in communications. Is that right? Does that sound right?
To be honest with you, I don't know. I looked at the article and I believe you. It was
okay.
My head started to spin when it started to try to figure out what that.
Then I'm going to stand here with my hands on my hips and say I am right.
Good job, man.
Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah. That's what I do.
The joke. Go ahead.
Jay also wants to know how the groundhog's doing.
The groundhog is still alive.
Still alive? That's a big sucker too.
There's just well, he wasn't that big when I first moved in. So I moved into this house in 2007. He's been here since. Definitely been here since then. And,
how close are you to Punxsutawney?
Not that far. Actually, he could be on the list.
Yeah, give Bill Murray a call. Speaking of which, do you see this hat I'm wearing? You know what this is from?
That's a Macstock hat.
Yeah. And you know where that's held?
In Mac World. I don't know.
Now, Woodstock, Illinois.
Somewhere in the middle of the country.
Yeah, which is best known as the place where they filmed all the outdoor scenes for Groundhog's Day. It wasn't actually filmed in Punxsutawney because the way it was explained to me was that there wasn't any snow in Punxsutawney when they had the shooting schedule set up, and there was in Woodstock, so that's why they went to Woodstock. Isn't that fascinating?
And you talked to the guy who was in Groundhog Day, I heard.
Oh, yeah. Stephen Tobolowsky.
Yeah, he's cool. Yeah.
He is cool. And he is actually number 9 on IMDb for the most number of TV and film roles ever. I mean, throughout the course that there's been movies and TVs. He's number 9.
I listened to your podcast on it. You wouldn't think he's that.
No, he's fascinating.
But he plays a boring guy. He plays has a boring personality, more or less, and very
Yeah.
monotone, kind of boring. So, but he's
Well,
interesting.
did
So,
you ever listen to his podcast, the Tobolowsky
nah,
Files?
nah, I should.
He he is a fantastic storyteller, and
There's,
you know, I don't want to get all into it because that's not what this is about. But if you're looking for more or less 72 hours of fantastic content to listen to, and as far as podcast goes, go to iTunes, check out the Tobolowsky Files. You won't be sorry. He tells great stories, and not just about being an actor. He talks about basically being like the only Jewish family in East Texas where he grew up, going to college, being an actor, becoming an actor, all the pitfalls of everything that happened along those lines. A lot of really, really personal stuff that he puts in as well. But
cool.
it really, really is a good podcast.
We'll check it out.
Marcus says Security Now has an in-depth podcast episode from yesterday. Please pick a topic you are versed in. Thanks, Marcus. Yeah, we'll do that next time. Thanks. You're welcome, Diane. Let's see. And I guess that's about all we got for that particular subject.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah,
is there anything else you'd like to talk about this evening?
Not so much. No, I mean we could talk about a whole bunch of things if you want, but 9 more days. 9 more days.
What happens in 9 days?
9 days is pre-order for the iPhone X, and
yeah, I'm. Hold on.
I decided I'm more.
Didn't you get the 8?
No, I'm waiting for the X, so I'm gonna get the X.
So I'm still on the 6.
Yeah, I got my 7 Plus. It's being sold. I decided I'm more. I don't want to say. I'm not excited for the launch of the iPhone X. Nervous is not the word either. I am. Yeah, maybe nervous. The pre-order day is a day I'm really kind of looking forward to, just getting it done and over with, because I want to know how long I'm going to have to wait after the pre-order. In other words,
what is it you need the iPhone X for? Or you just want it?
What do I need anything for? What do you need your iPhone 6 Plus for?
Well, I hang on to my tech for a really long time. My Mac Pro is from 7 years ago. My laptop is from 4 years ago.
Yeah, and there's people out there with 10-year-old computers and phones, and they're like, "Guy, why do you need that stuff? What do you need?"
That's way too young. What's wrong with you?
No, I just want the new one. But I'm just, obviously the rumors normally don't get to me, but every other day it's a rumor like we will have enough iPhone X's for everybody. No, we won't. There's a supply problem with the face detection. Oh no, they sorted it out. So everybody's just nervous about the 27th at this point. As far as so I'm gonna get up at 3:00 in the morning, like everybody else who wants a stupid phone, and find out if I get it the week after, or if I get it, months after that. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I would like to get a new phone, but it's more along the lines of what I want versus what I need.
I'm getting yelled at. I'm sorry, it's a 10, not the X. Everybody's yelling at me.
Yeah, I don't care. It's the X. X.
Whatever.
And Mike also wants to know if Macs are right for aliens. Based on Independence Day, I'm going to say no. It really didn't work out well for them. Somehow a PowerBook 5300 was able to get into an alien network.
They uploaded the virus right on.
That's right. I mean, that was Jeff Goldblum. What a guy. What a hacker. We should have him look at KRACK. Probably take care of it right away.
Yeah. Mike also says this will be interesting though. The screen replacement actually aspect of the 10, it will be interesting too. So I'm looking at screen. I haven't seen screen protectors out yet. I've seen a few cases, but that's going to be a costly screen, I think, to fix. Yeah.
Oh, no doubt. I mean,
and
especially early on when they can't even make enough of them to meet demand. So
Uh,
if
yeah, that and the fact that is the OLED screen. I think they also Apple Care for the 10 is 40, 30, or $40 more than
well, it's
the
what
8.
79 if you I think if you break the screen under Apple Care, it's going to cost you
It's
$79.
like
I think maybe a
it's,
little more.
it's around 100, and I think, but you have to pay for additional to get the Apple Care Plus.
Oh
You got
yeah.
to pay
Well, it's
on it.
Apple Care. I mean, Apple Care that I got for this phone paid for itself when
Yeah,
I was outside by my wife's car having a cigarette and I dropped my phone and cracked the screen. It was like,
yeah,
so it cost me like $79 to replace it. So that made me happy.
yeah. So with the 10, it's going to be worse. It's a new screen. There's not going to be a lot of surplus of them. It's going to be OLED, which is um, a more expensive technology. Who knows what happens with the Face ID if that's all one unit with that face camera in there? Who knows? We'll find out. But anyways, yes, 3 a.m. And then once I order it, I'll be happy to know at least I ordered it.
Okay. Well, I think unless you got something else or the chat room has something else, I think
No,
we
I'm
are
looking.
going to call it for the evening. Um, and I will wait and let the chat room get caught up with us a little bit. But in the meantime, I will ask you, Warren, if people wanted to get a hold of you, how would they do it?
They can email me to my 500 email. We had a whole I don't know if you saw. We had a whole conversation about email addresses today, in Facebook. Back to the Future.
No, I didn't see
Um,
that.
and long story short is, if you have a Gmail address, is harvesting your data. If you have
Of
an
course.
AOL
Oh
address,
yeah.
yeah. So we had the whole discussion, and then I'm basically like, I've been doing, when Hotmail first came out, I got a Hotmail address, and when AOL first came out, I got an AOL address. And I mean,
Sure. I was
it's
Florida
it's
Kid
not,
on AOL.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not like Olin. It's not like, I have these email addresses because, I backtracked and got them because they're cool. It's, history. And then, the whole thing is people, have these email addresses and they don't want to change them. They don't want to tell everybody their new email address. And, why are you using a Hotmail address? I'm like, I don't know, in 2000 or 1990, late 1990s, I got it. Now people know it. Anyways, if they want to get a hold of me, Facebook, I'm always here.
Okay. Well, the main problem I find with a lot of these automatically generated email addresses like you get from your ISP is what happens when you leave that ISP. And
I have
you've
that.
used that
Yeah.
email address for all these other things, which is why, for better or for worse, for the most part, I use my Gmail account for all those things because I know it's not going anywhere.
Exactly. When I lived in London, I was doing support for a bunch of the expats that were out there,
Yeah.
and it, every end of year they would all come crying to me like, uh, I just realized that if I'm moving back to the States, I'm losing my wsclera@btinternet.com address. What do I do? I'm like,
Get a Gmail
because
account.
yeah, every year. But every year, then I have to tell everybody and things like that. So exactly, I got a Hotmail account, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It's there, whatever. It didn't go anywhere. So, how would we reach you, Mr.
Oh, well, all they would have to do is send an email to guy@mttfgo.com or I'm Mac Parrot, though, yeah, that's been abused over the last couple days. I told you that story. I'm not going to repeat it here because I don't want it to have happen on Facebook what happened on Twitter.
Yeah.
And of course, I can also be found nearly every day over on the Mac to the Future Facebook page, as well as doing the mymac.com podcast with Gazmaz on the weekends.
It was a good show. I
Yeah, also, Marcus would like to tell you that it's OLED, not OLED.
Yeah, I have nothing to say to Marcus about
we
that.
don't care, Marcus. We'll call it OLED, we'll call it X, and there's really nothing you can do about it.
He has an iPhone 8, so when I'm looking at my phone, I'm gonna go, Marcus,
Yeah.
OLED. Oh, ooh,
So
ooh,
meanwhile,
it's LED.
um, everyone, thanks for joining us tonight. I think we had like almost 10 people tonight here in the chat
So,
room. Really
so
appreciate it. And some subsection of us will see you all next time. So in the meantime, bye. Whoops. Hold on. There's the drone.
yeah, it's working.
Okay, that's it.
All right. Yeah, people are just saying bye in the chat room and making fun of each other. Yeah, that went nicely. People
Yeah.
got into it. So
And I couldn't really tell that your audio is clipping because I've just got this little cheapy thingy in here.
did it sound all right for the most part?
It sounded well. I mean, I'll know more once I drop it into Premiere Elements to do the video for it later.
Cool.
But
All right.
yeah, I think that's going to be it for the night. So everyone who's still watching, all four of you, thank you. We'll see you later. I'm gonna end the live cast.
Oh, we're still on. Oh crap. Oh, bye all. Yeah.
Okay, it's done.
All right. He did say I was clipping. I didn't see what he was saying.